good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you for joining this AI Explained with Dr. Girish Nadkarni. So, Girish, thanks for joining. Just like from an audience perspective, could you just give a brief intro about yourself? What you do at, you know, uh, Mount Sinai, and your role in terms of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Girish Nadkarni. I'm a clinician, but also an informaticist slash AI scientist. I've been working in the field of applied AI for over a decade now. My specific interests are a few. One is the safe, effective, and ethical clinical implementation and scaling of AI across health systems, and sort of the best governance strategies to do that. That's one. The second is uh, uh, particularly around LLMs, sort of assurance testing of large language models to make sure that they align with like best clinical practices and recommendations, right? The third is sort of the agentic experience of AI as applied to medicine in the terms of things, and we've talked about this, Krishna, at length, about things that are, especially for clinical decisions that are sort of non-critical, need to be made to be fast and like are easily reversible, right? So in that role, I'm the chair of the Windreich Department of AI and Human Health at Mount Sinai, and I also lead a research slash clinical institute called as the Hasselplattner Institute of Digital Health at Mount Sinai, and I have a role on the health system side of things as well, particularly around governance and clinical implementation. So yeah, and
Awesome.
I've in my other life I've started some companies.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much. It's very rare to see someone with like so much cross-disciplinary experience and background, and so we're very excited to learn some of the AI applications in healthcare. So, I guess like generative AI has gained a lot of traction, right? How is Gen AI being used today in clinical settings? Are there any specific examples that you can walk us through?
Yeah,
Like AI-powered diagnostics or whatnot.
yeah. So also I think let's just talk about this, right? Let's differentiate clinical settings from what actually happens when with patient interaction and patient facing stuff, and like all the rest of it, right? All the rest of it is probably like 85% of the whole enterprise, right?
Mhm.
Things like billing,
Yeah,
coding, um, back office
right.
tasks, registry creation, etc., right? So I think that there is an impetus on generative AI to uh, push a lot of the tasks that initially required human intervention or human labor, especially in the back office field. But then there is also now slowly a trickle down effect into the clinical fields, right?
Mhm.
So I'll give you an example in the back office fields, right? So generative AI at Sinai, we are using it for automating a lot of back office tasks like scheduling appointments, right? Better billing and coding, better financial management, better insurance plan enrollment, and those things already exist, right? But slowly moving into the clinical field, right? I think where the first big push will be is uh, removing the back office tasks from the practice
Yeah.
of medicine, right? So, have you been to a doctor recently?
Yeah, just like yesterday.
Where was it, if I may ask?
Kaiser in the Bay Area. Yeah.
How long was the visit?
It it took like an hour, like end to end, right?
Yeah, but how
Basically.
much time did the doctor
No,
spend?
the doctor probably spends like 10-15 minutes, right? Yeah.
In that 10-15 minutes, how much time did the doctor spend looking at you versus the computer?
Yeah, maybe like less than that, right? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, is it fair to say that in the 15 minutes again of a hour-long thing, which should have been ideally like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
uh, the physician spent
Half of the
10 minutes looking
time.
at the
Yeah.
computer
Yeah.
and 5 minutes looking at you?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, that's where ambient AI and generative AI comes in, right? So if you think
Mm.
about it, right, you like you and I are talking now, right? We could have a conversation, and ambient AI, and now it's a bunch of companies, Abridge, Suki,
Mhm. Mhm.
Dax. could like listen to a conversation with
Yeah.
commoditized hardware and then generate a billable note for the physician. So doctors sort of become doctors and talk to the patient and
Mm,
make decisions rather than being a data entry clerk, right?
mm,
Uh,
mm,
so I think that's one area where there's an
mm,
intersection between back office tasks and clinical medicine. And I think that's going to see like broad adoption because
mm.
physicians are also tired of typing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I think even if there is not an increase in productivity, there's going to be an increase in satisfaction among
Mm,
physicians because they no longer having they don't no longer having uh, uh, um, uh, they no longer have the drudgery of like you're listening to you and then also typing into a note, right?
that's
So
right.
I would argue that some of their cognitive uh,
Right. Yeah.
like
And there are also more important serious use cases, right? Like risk prediction and sepsis detection. How is like AI being used in those cases, like where
I think that's a
life
whole
and death
new
issue?
area of
Yeah.
predictive AI, right?
Right.
Which has been around longer, in my opinion, than generative AI. So we have more
Right.
experience with it. And
Right.
that is where I think, you know, we need to think a little bit sort of deeply around
Mm,
the risks surrounding it, right? So
right.
yeah, we deploy a lot of AI into clinical care, but I
Mm,
think that like the decision to not deploy something is equally important as the decision to deploy it, right?
mm,
What do
mm.
I mean by that? If as a physician I make a mistake just because of the bandwidth and like the number of patients I see is going to be limited to like a patient or five patients at the most, right? If an
Right.
algorithm is inaccurate, who
Mm,
algorithm is inaccurate, then it scales to like tens of thousands of patients, right?
yeah.
I think that that is where you sort of need assurance, you need monitoring, you need privacy, and you need security. And ideally, you need one level above that, which is sort of randomized testing or
Yeah.
some sort of AI assurance where you
Yeah.
put things through like an A/B test, obviously with highest levels of patient security, etc. And then you put that into clinical care. Now, that being said, at Mount Sinai, we've deployed several of these predictive AI algorithms for
Mm,
things like worsening of kidney function, prediction of
yeah.
malnutrition, prediction of falls, etc., etc.
Mm,
Now, a lot of them are monitored continuously to allow for drift, etc., etc. And we want to make sure that those are anything that sort of makes is patient as not patient facing, anything that impacts clinical care as we know it is safe, effective, and ethical, right? And we can have a longer
right.
conversation
Yeah.
about
Yeah. So, of course, there's classical ML, as you said, the predictive AI that's been around for a long time, and now there's generative AI, which you talked about some really interesting use cases like ambient experience and whatnot. How are you seeing the interplay of these two things? How are they complementing each other in healthcare applications? Any interesting insights there?
so two major insights, right? Um, so the first is generative AI can actually also be used as predictive AI.
Mm,
It can be used as predictive AI in the sense of few short learning or small amounts of fine tuning that
mm,
can actually improve prediction, right? And it can be used as predictive AI, especially in certain tasks where there's not much tabular data. By tabular data, I
mm,
mean labs or codes, right? And where a lot of the prediction thing is incorporated in nodes.
mm,
Like examples would be like mental health disorders, right?
mm.
The example would be initial presentation of a patient to the emergency room because you don't have a lot of like tabular information at that time,
Right, right,
mostly notes, right? Like what happened to you, right? I
correct,
proof.
correct.
Yeah, right. So that's one thing, right? That's one thing where generative AI is actually used as predictive AI. And then
Yeah.
we at the risk of tooting my own horn, we actually have a paper on this in Jamia where
Mm,
you actually show that the the accuracy, like we did it for emergency room, right? So the
mm,
accuracy for uh, um, uh, generative AI when you are just feeding it like 10 examples of emergency room cases can approach predictive AI. I mean, it's
mm,
slightly lower, but I mean, I'm assuming if you fed in more than 10 examples, it would get better because it scales.
Mm-hmm.
It can actually give you a reasoning about why it's making the prediction, which
Mm-hmm.
traditional ML cannot, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but traditional ML, if you think about,
You have to retrofit explainability and whatnot, but in this case, the LLMs can potentially give a
similarly,
reason out. Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
one. The second thing is when you can work things in concert, right?
yeah.
And that's when you can think about potential agents in medicine, right?
Right.
So you have a predictive approach that's, I'm just going to give you a clinical example, right?
Sure.
In the hospital, who are the 10% of people at most at risk of a fall? I'm just
Mm,
giving you an example, right?
mm,
So, you can have a standard, say, a random forest or
mm,
some other tree-based algorithm
mm,
do that, and it can say it has an accuracy of like 95%, and
mm,
it has a predictive probability, sorry, positive predictive value of like 70%. So
mm,
10 patients, the positive predictive will be set 10%. So instead of like having a physician or a nurse go and examine those 10 patients, you can
mm.
automatically put an alert in that chart, right? Saying
Yeah,
like, using a generative AI, like saying a note that this patient has been uh, uh, flagged at high risk of a fall, right? Next
yeah.
time to the patient, you be careful or something, right?
Mhm.
So that's an example of where predictive and generative AI can operate almost
You
in
can take the predictive outputs and summarize it for
exactly.
and for yeah, doctors and nurses. That's amazing. Well, one of the biggest concerns with Gen AI is the whole concept of hallucinations, or what they call faithfulness, or groundedness, right? How do you ensure, how do we ensure these AI outputs are accurate and clinically reliable?
So I mean, you are much more technical than me, Krishna, right? You tell me whether hallucinations can ever go away.
I mean, see, I think models can never be perfect, and that's what we've learned even through the classical ML. So I think there will always be issues with it. It's just I think it's like more like a creative feature in the whole the way the LLMs work, right? So I don't think that they will ever go away, but I think there are more and more guardrails and more safety checks people are putting in to ensure that's not
Exactly.
happening.
So okay, so a few things, right? So like so we agree that they will never completely go away, right? Because it's almost a feature, not a bug.
Correct.
It's a feature of the creativity, right?
Correct.
Um, so you can put guardrails around it in the form of like, you know, not hallucinate about certain things, right?
Yeah.
You can improve hallucinations with RAG,
Mm,
basically like RAG it to a vector database of
yeah.
institutional policies or medical knowledge or what have you. Now we have some work coming around that I would be happy to share at some
Mm,
point, where you even if you do all of these things, you RAG it, and these are actually real world cases, right?
yeah.
The experiment was this: you basically take 1,000 real world cases and you just fabricate a disease name or fabricate a lab value out of this, and then you watch how the model, responds with further hallucinations based upon bad data, which just happens, right? Data corruption, etc. Um, so even if you RAG it, the
Mm,
hallucination rate goes down, but it still stays fixed below a certain amount, right?
right.
So that is why I think figuring out a risk-based approach of what to automate and what needs
Mm,
oversight is going to
mm,
be critical because you know if you hallucinate like a for a non-critical decision, right?
mm,
You know, patient needs to go from bed A to bed B. It's
mm,
fine. Like if you
yeah.
realize it's wrong after 2 hours, doesn't really matter, right? But if you hallucinate that the patient needs surgery, that's a big deal, right? That's why I think a risk-based approach, like focus on this three parameters of like how critical is a decision that needs to be made, how reversible it is, and how fast it needs to be made actually helps with the AI governance, right?
Mm,
So I think, if we agree that hallucinations are never going to go away, but we also agree that, the benefit of using generative AI in healthcare is important, then we need to like both put guardrails, technical guardrails, but also governance guardrails.
correct. Yeah, so you touched upon, like this whole thing about continuous risk evaluation in some ways. Essentially you're scoring these Gen AI apps. So, and then you touched upon this governance aspect. Could you shed some light on like the governance processes that happen around AI, like for example, in your organization or in general in the healthcare space?
Yeah, absolutely. So that governance in AI is evolving field right now. I'll say that. So I don't think I have all of the answers, but
Mm,
I have some thoughts and some principles, right?
mm,
So the first thing I think governance, when you're setting governance policies, you have to be make sure that you have a diverse range of perspectives on board. And in healthcare, that means people who provide the care, like nurses, physicians, MAs,
mm,
um, people who enable the care to be provided, which ensures like takes all the back office, and people to whom the care is provided, right? So basically patients. So you need all of those three perspectives on board because they have different perspectives on everything. And then you can have like almost a review panel where you can have a majority vote for anything to pass through.
mm.
But even before the things hit that review panel, there needs to be some decision points or rules, right? Like first easy thing is like, is it back office or is it patient facing? If it's back office, then I would argue, yeah, you need some rigor, but you need a lower level of like rigor than if it actually impacts clinical care, right? And for if things that impact clinical care, right, you need to figure out if it's safe, which
Mm.
requires a lot of like validation testing and assurance testing. Is it effective, which ideally requires some sort of A/B testing, and which C3 is ethical, which basically requires like monitoring for bias.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, so what should be the best practices then? Let's say, lots of healthcare companies, we are working with a few, uh, they're trying to, integrate Gen AI into their workflows. Now, how should they go about doing this in a responsible manner? What are some of the best practices do you recommend?
Again, like these are my recommendations, right? I just say that, not my institution's recommendations, because I'm one part of the whole purpose, right? So I think like first thing, the best practice is like clarity of purpose, right?
Mm,
What problem are you actually trying to solve? I mean, there is a wish right now to appear cool, or like to appear like that we are doing stuff around AI and we are like this. But like, okay, and that sounds fine. But if you're actually implementing AI without a clear organizational strategy or a clear solving of a clinical or operational challenge, right? Like prioritizing emergency rooms, clinical decision support, patient flow optimization, where generative AI has been shown to concretely add value, right? The
mm,
second thing is, a risk-based approach, like we just talked about, right? What
mm,
based upon the metrics or rubrics of um, reversibility, criticality, and how fast you make the decision. What's like the level of oversight that you need, right? Like,
mm,
you know, for everything, like if you are high criticality but also low reversibility, then you need physicians, maybe two physicians to look at it, right?
mm.
Then so you need like clear oversight through well-defined escalation protocols, right? And the third
So
thing,
reversibility from an AI decision or like reversibility of human interpretation of that decision? Like what is the
reversibility of the decision themselves.
reversibility of decision themselves? Okay. Okay.
Like is there's a door that you cannot reverse, right? For
Mm.
example, if you do a wrong surgery on a patient, that's a
Correct,
door you
correct.
cannot
Yeah.
reverse. But if
So
you send a patient from an emergency room to the floor, you can
right,
easily reverse that,
right,
right?
right,
I mean, there's a bunch of examples around
right,
that.
right, right.
And then the third thing is training, right?
Mm,
Right now, um, it's it's not a new field, but
mm,
it's also a field that most people who make these decisions are not accustomed or not used to, right? So
mm,
I think that needs to be sort of large scale training
mm,
across health systems, and sort of training tailored to what your job is right now, but how your job could evolve based upon this, right? And that
mm,
training is going to be different for providers, or it's going to be different for physicians, nurses, it's going to be different for uh, uh, other people, right? And then finally, sort of build some sort of a feedback mechanism. And that's a bigger conversation that we can have, right?
mm,
So the feedback mechanism is can involve again on a risk based basis, things from clinical trials to long term. Everything should be monitored long term. Sorry,
yeah.
but basically continually measure outcomes, refine the models, get human feedback, and ensure that any errors are identified and corrected easily.
Right, right. So yeah, so it comes back to like assessing the risks upfront, which use case you want to apply it or not, and then evaluating it and properly setting up all the continuous oversight and monitoring to make sure it works. That's great. Now switching gears a little bit, right? So AI, is seems to be helping quite a bit in this, discovering new antibiotics and assisting in drug discovery. How do you see like Gen AI shaping the future of like say precision medicine and treatment innovations?
So that's a great question, right? And I think that it's sort of a full stack innovation for everything, right?
Mm,
Like if you think about what precision medicine is, right, is it's proactive rather than reactive, it's personalized rather than public, and it's predictive rather than reductive, right? So if you take those three things, right? So you can know which patients are going to get sick or which patients are going to have an incidence of disease based upon a combination of several data points, starting off with their biological data, which genome exposure, but sorry, genome, proteome, etc., but also like their clinical data, their environmental data, right? So that's the predictive part of it. So that's when you can't just and then you proactively try to prevent that disease from happening by personalizing therapy, right? It's not a far stretch to think about two things that are happening concurrently, right? One is the increasing personalization in biotech with like
mm,
mRNA and gene therapies and even gene editing, but
mm,
also this AI development of faster approaches to do these things, right? So in the
mm,
future, and again, it's not possible, it's definitely possible to have like a Coke machine, right? Basically, you enter in a person's information and you press, whether you want like regular Coke or Diet Coke or vanilla, which vanilla Coke is terrible, by the way, vanilla Coke, and you get a drug or a
uh,
molecule personalized to that individual patient, right? I mean, it sounds science fiction, but if you think about the component parts of it, right, it's not,
mm,
right? Right? You need you need accurate prediction that this person is going to get sick because you don't want to give medications to someone.
mhm,
But then you can have tailored if like tailored drugs to particular genes that like decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease, etc., etc. And then you need a delivery mechanism, and a lot of these delivery mechanisms are becoming oral, right? So you can have mRNA medication in an oral form that's specifically made for you. Now,
mm,
you tell me that this is science fiction. It's not, because
mm,
there have been personalized medicines created for rare diseases, like
mm,
with names of patients on the, and these are severe diseases, right? For example,
mm.
girl had like spinal muscular dystrophy due to a mutation in a gene. A drug was created specifically for her, and she does well now, right? I'm just telling you that this is possible to scale, right, with AI,
Yeah.
because you can screen lots of combinations quickly, and you can rapidly generate and iterate novel molecular design for a particular patient.
That's amazing. So what you're saying is personalized, completely personalized medicine for some rare diseases based on your DNA, your sort of molecular structure. You can
Well, not just rare diseases, I would argue common diseases as well.
common diseases as well and
And
personalized to you to
importantly,
your body.
prevent diseases, right?
Yeah.
Personalized medications for preventing diseases,
Preventing diseases.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, right now, like the healthcare
Mm,
system in the US is not really healthcare, right?
mm.
It's care because it waits for you to get sick and then
Right.
treats. But if you had a way of predicting with perfect accuracy, or with like not even
Mm,
perfect accuracy, with like reasonable
mm,
accuracy, and then
mm.
you had a personalized way of preventing it, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that would be amazing actually. I studied a bit of bioinformatics in my grad school. This is all very interesting. We studied all the protein structure predictions and all. It seems like Gen AI can automate a lot of these things and make them a lot better actually.
I mean, it can make a you can say that it's science fiction, but I anticipate that the scope machine, and again, the scope machine analogy is not mine, right? It's my
Mm,
partner Alex Shani's,
mm,
coming sooner rather than later, because I
mm.
think it's going to happen. And it might start off with like rare genetic diseases, but it might end up with common complex diseases.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And so basically, when you sort of think about Gen AI across like healthcare, what are some of like let's say three promising use cases that you think in the let's say in the next 12 to 18 months that you would see massive, traction happening?
Well, so first thing, three things, and this is not specifically clinical, right? The
Yeah.
three things are massive traction happening is like clinical summarization and
Mm,
documentation, and this
mm,
includes the areas that we just talked about ambient AI
mm,
and right, but it also includes like mundane things like patient registry creation and like
mm,
extraction of data from clinical records for sending to large quality improvement initiatives across the country, right? So that's one.
mm,
The second thing is that I think in diagnostic imaging, like diagnosis, not just
mm,
imaging, right? Things like novel bioprognostics for predicting disease, right? AI for like detecting stuff on radiology scans, right?
mm,
So those are the things that I think will come out fast and furious, better ways of
mm,
predicting disease with the eventual goal of preventing them.
mm.
And the third thing is a little sort of left field, right? I think huge in patient engagement, education, and empowerment, right?
Mm,
I'll
mm,
give you a simple example. It was so simple that we should have thought of it like years back, right?
mm,
Um, like Brown University. So
mm.
anytime you go to a doctor, you have to sign a form, a consent form, right? Like I'm fine with this, correct?
Yeah.
And those consent forms are like full of jargon.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't understand them as a trained
Yeah.
physician. How are
Yeah.
people with like the lower literacy levels can understand?
Right.
Oh, so you do a great thing, right? Can you take this consent form and translate it without losing any of the information into a sixth grade reading level? And it
Mm,
happened, and they did it across the health system, and patients loved
yeah.
it because now they
Yeah.
can actually understand stuff, right? There's a
Yeah.
huge thing in making like complex medical
Mm,
concepts more clarifiable, right? So
yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I think the third thing that you mentioned, it's actually close to my heart, so the accessibility of medicine, right? And I remember when we both met at the Responsible AI conference in New York, you were very passionate about how AI could transform medicine across the globe, for like people who don't have access to like great doctors and hospitals.
yeah.
Can you what are your thoughts? How are you, like can you share some of that with our audience?
Yeah, so let's have a conversation about that, right? Medicine is sort of human expertise encoded in heuristic form, right? Like you take in inputs and then you have outputs, right? And the problem with medicine is like expertise until now, any quote unquote intelligence was limited, right?
Mm,
And as a result of that, you couldn't scale this. Forget about worldwide, you couldn't really scale this to a system, and that's the root of all access issues, right? If I today I were to go and try to find a primary care provider for a cold, I would guarantee you I can't find one today. I
mm,
mean, I could find one tomorrow or day after, right? Because there's limited resources, right? But if you theoretically think about the fact that it's encoded knowledge and you can scale it across the globe, then it's a problem of scale, right? Which we've solved before. Not we as in tech has like
yeah.
tech industry has solved before, right? Because it's a matter of scale and just like blitz scaling, right?
Mhm,
Now
mhm.
it's a little more dangerous because it affects people, so there needs to be risk-based guardrails around it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would also think that a bunch of patients are already putting their data into ChatGPT or Google Gemini or similar, right? So people are already doing it. I think we just need to make it better and put more guardrails around it and like
Mm,
link it with via RAG to some
mm,
sort of verifiable medical knowledge, right?
mm,
Because this could be huge, right? Like, for
mm,
example, I'll give you a simple example, right? Where I grew up in India, right? Tuberculosis is extremely
mm,
prominent, right? And the standard workflow was, for diagnosis, you had to get like three sputum tests, etc., etc. Now there are things that can have diagnosed TB with like 100% accuracy in 5 minutes.
mm.
That completely changes the workflow, right? Because
Yeah.
now you can go from presentation to not even a doctor, right? Someone who's sort of paramedical, right? Like someone with
Mm,
some training, knowing how to recognize the bad stuff, accompanied by an AI agent, right? You
mm,
could get TB diagnosed, and you could get the first dose of treatment all under like 15 minutes, right?
mm,
Huge workflow issue,
mm,
right? So I think the mass adoption of AI into clinical healthcare over and beyond what's happening in the back office tasks is going to be uh, uh, in starting off in the low and middle income countries, right? But
Mm.
there's a danger there because by definition, low and middle income countries won't necessarily have the same rigor of regulations that the US does. So we
Yeah,
not and cannot take advantage of that.
that's right. So, but do you see the world of virtual agents, like in terms of like dark,
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely. But already happening.
yeah, already happening? Yeah,
Already happening. I think it just needs to happen in a more rigorous and more
Mm.
reproducible and a more dare I say it, ethical fashion, but it's
Yeah,
already happening. I mean, I
right,
think, where the question of whether it's happening or not is done.
yeah,
It's already
right.
happening. The
Happening.
question is how do we make sure that it's safe and effective?
That's right. So I think as a related audience question on that, what are those particular clinical scenarios where Gen AI should not be used or too risky? So this is kind of a counter question.
So that's a really good question, right? Um, I don't think it should be used when there's a question of capacity. And by
Mm.
capacity, I mean it in a specific medical and a legal sense. Capacity basically means that you cannot, because of severe mental or physical issues, you don't have the capability to take your own decisions, right? And there it should not be used because of the fact that patients don't really have the ability to distinguish right from wrong, right? And I don't mean to sound paternalistic, but there's a specific medical legal definition of capacity which says that then you need like two or three physicians or like an ethics board to come in. So I
Mm.
think that's one example of where it should not be used. The
Mm.
second one is well, this is starting off with nothing should be used unless it's safe, effective, and
Yeah.
ethical, right? But like, where it absolutely should not be used. On the pediatric and the child health one, I'm a little conflicted, right?
Mm.
I don't know the answer to that, but that's
Mm.
something which has uh, which has tricky, right, because of consent and because of
Mm.
uh, issues, right? And that's why even if you see it in the current marketplace, in the current world, uh, um, you know, um, uh, uh, it's not being used particularly there's not a lot of products in kids right now, right? Which is
Mm.
an issue in of itself, right?
Mm.
Um, and the third thing is sort of specific protected populations, right?
Mm.
That those are definitions, right? Like prisoners and like
Mm.
people with like significant um, medical and or mental health issues. So
Mm.
those are that's a tricky ethical situation. That's a really good question. I need to think a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's this whole sort of I don't know if it's a dystopian scenario, but like, you think about like Elon Musk's Optimus robot, right? Like that is, running, walking up hills, catching tennis balls. Now, if you think about like generative AI systems connected to robotics, now, do you see a world where, AI-driven robots could outperform human surgeons, or, this sort of, pretty high risk
It
situation? Yeah.
well, so yes. Now the question is when. Uh, 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 um, the question is when, and I don't know the answer.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to different people, right? Again,
Yeah.
because understanding the real world is much harder than understanding language, right?
Mm.
That's why um, the hardware is there, but
Mm.
the world models and the LLMs are not particularly there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, um, uh, you know, uh, um, uh, um, I think it's not going to be easy to do this um, in the
It's too
next.
ambiguous and you need more
I don't know
dexterity.
the
Yeah.
answer. I honestly don't know the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe in 100 years.
I
Maybe
think it'll be
more people.
sooner than that, but
Okay.
like I don't know if like it'll require the development of like
Mm.
robust world models, right? Because understanding the physical world is much
Mm.
harder than
Right.
understanding the digital world, right? So it
Right.
requires development of robust world models.
Right. 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 Makes sense. So, and then there's like something related to the whole sort of administrative efficiency, right? Which you talked about at length. But there's an audience question as well on that. There are some people who absorb information better when taking notes or writing. if AI is taking notes, how will we include those doctor styles, right? Like, do you see a world that's going to be a hindrance, or it's kind of a
I mean,
temporary
if
thing?
they want to like notes, type notes, all right, they can do that, and then you can
Mm,
just add in to the then addendums or notes to the end, right? I
mm,
mean, like
mm. Yeah.
I would argue that lots of doctors want to have a conversation.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So I guess, finally, where do you see the biggest bottlenecks in scaling Gen AI solutions in healthcare? Is it coming from, let's say, like we talked about the reliability, accuracy, this whole risk issues? Or is it coming from, governance side of things, process side of things? Where are the bottlenecks?
Lots of bottlenecks, right? I
Mm,
mean, there is a standing maxim that uh, 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 um, uh, uh, that is standing maxim that workflow eats technology for breakfast. So I think
mm,
if okay, do we agree that AI in its current form is a massive transformational technology? Probably, right? So, I mean, you found a company around it, so you probably
correct.
agree. So, but any transformational technology takes
Mm,
time
mm,
because there needs the technology itself might be transformation, but society needs to transform around it, right?
mm,
For example, I'll give you a clear example, right? Electricity became invented, forget about invented, it became
mm,
cheaply, easy to produce cheaply. But the time it took for electricity to replace steam was
mm,
approximately 50 to 60 years, right?
mm,
That's because, you know, factories had to be reconfigured for
mm,
electricity.
mm.
People had to be trained,
Yeah,
infrastructure had to be laid, all of those things. And society had to evolve, right?
yeah. Be comfortable with it and trust it. Yeah,
That's what it. Now, and here I would like to hear your opinion, right?
yeah,
But just in thinking about healthcare, right?
yeah,
Right now, hospitals and health systems physically, logistically, organizationally are
yeah,
configured in a certain way, right? Um, to reconfigure them is going to
mm,
take time, effort, and energy.
yeah,
And if to reconfigure them early, then the
mm,
tipping point is going to be a massive financial risk.
yeah, yeah,
In this case, and tell me what you think, right? Being
yeah.
early is almost the same as being wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in this way, in many industries, and healthcare is obviously another industry where what we are seeing is AI is being used to drive more efficiencies, right? Like you talked about things like, assessing readmission risk, or, getting an alert if this patient is, likely to fall or something, or like maybe like a sepsis detection system that can give you an early warning, or, the whole ambient experience you talked about, where even if you're wrong, it's not like going to be so bad. Like the false positives are not bad, but getting that insight quickly can save a lot of time and energy and human resources, being spent
Absolutely.
on those problems. I think that's where we are seeing like the early adoption happen. Of course, like having an AI robot doing this eye surgery, that's probably like tens of years away, right? Like,
But
yeah,
I think the society and
yeah,
society broadly, but
yeah,
also specifically the healthcare society
right,
needs to conform, like, needs to transform around it, right?
yeah,
We agree that the technology is transformational. It just needs the remaining world
yeah,
to conform around
yeah,
it, which will
yeah,
happen. Trust
yeah.
me.
Yep, absolutely. I think the personalized medicine that you talked about is very, very interesting, right? And that's both innovative and now could be game changing, actually. So I guess, we're gonna wrap up this conversation in, 2, 3 minutes now. If you had one final takeaway for a healthcare leader like you, trying to drive Gen AI in their organization, what would it be?
I mean, this might sound blasé and like cheesy, but keep the patient at the center, right? Do what's
Mm,
best for the patient. And if your focus and your effort and your energy and your purpose starts from that, then even if you are wrong, you'll probably be right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Girish. That's a great way to end the conversation today. Thanks for sharing your valuable insights and time with us. Uh, that's it for this week's AI Explain. Thank you so much for everybody joining us, and we'll see you in another session shortly.
Thank you, Krishna, and thank you everyone to the for having me on. It was a blast.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye bye.